The colony at Verdun Reach never made the news. It was a patch of green and sky on the edge of charted space, a place where life was quiet enough to feel almost ordinary. Elena Ward woke each morning before the suns rose, tying her dark hair back as the lights of the medical bay hummed to life. She loved that sound, machines awakening to serve, not destroy. The air smelled faintly of antiseptic and coffee, the comforting scent of purpose. Patients trickled in with burns, sprains, and the occasional mining accident. She knew every face. She knew every child's laugh. They called her the angel of the outpost, half joking, half in reverence. Her husband was far away, part of a unit she wasn't allowed to name. Marcus Ward's messages arrived irregularly, never saying where he was. A few seconds of grainy video, a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Stay safe, Len. Keep that stubborn heart beating." She would reply with a laugh and an eye roll, pretending not to notice the exhaustion in his voice. The last message came 2 weeks ago. His image flickered, uniform torn, voice low, almost done. "I'll be home soon." The transmission ended with static that lingered longer than it should have. Verdun Reach was small but proud, a settlement built on compassion more than wealth. Humans and a few neighboring species coexisted there, trading medicine, grain, and stories. Elena had learned bits of alien anatomy just to treat them better. She didn't care about politics or the long wars that men like Marcus fought. Her war was against infection, pain, and despair. When the miners brought in a wounded Drawl merchant, she stayed 3 shifts straight to stabilize him. That was the kind of fight she understood, the slow, relentless defense of life. Lately, though, the chatter from orbit had changed. Freighters whispered of pirate bands, not human, not organized, sweeping through the frontier, taking slaves and leaving wreckage. Most colonists dismissed it as rumor. The Reach was too far from the trade routes, too humble to attract notice. But the militia began checking rifles more often. The comm tower blinked with unusual priority signals. Elena felt the shift like a change in air pressure, something vast and unseen turning its attention their way. That evening, she lingered outside the clinic, watching the horizon burn orange beneath twin suns. The quiet was so deep she could hear her own heartbeat. For a moment she imagined Marcus standing beside her, calloused hand finding hers. She whispered into the wind, "You better hurry home." Then she laughed softly at herself and went back inside, scolding her sentimentality. Night came, and with it the cold that only deep space colonies knew, the kind that crept through metal walls and made even machines seem to shiver. Elena stayed late, updating patient logs, humming a half-forgotten Earth tune. She noticed a flicker in the comms relay, an emergency ping, then nothing. The main light panels dimmed for half a second. She frowned, assuming a power fluctuation. Outside, the ground vibrated faintly, like a giant heartbeat beneath the soil. The alarms erupted without warning. Red strobes washed across the medical bay. The AI voice stuttered through static, orbital breach detected. Unidentified vessels inbound. The words meant little until she saw the sky, streaks of fire cutting through the dark, descending fast. Panic rippled through the colony streets. Elena ran toward the shelter protocols, shouting orders, guiding the wounded she could find. She refused to leave the med bay. It was the only place equipped to treat the casualties that were sure to come. As she sealed the doors, the first impact shook the ground. Containers toppled, instruments shattered, and the power grid screamed. Through the viewport she saw silhouettes, tall, angular forms moving with unnatural speed. Alien raiders, armor glinting in the emergency light. She felt no fear, only a tightening resolve. People would come, bleeding and broken. She would be there. She always was. Her last coherent thought before the explosion cracked the far wing of the building was of Marcus, somewhere out there, unaware that his world was collapsing. She whispered his name once, steady, as if by saying it she could anchor herself against the storm. Then she turned back to her patients, hands trembling but determined. The nurse of Verdun Reach never believed in heroes. She believed in duty. And as the alien shadows closed in, duty was all she had left. The first explosions tore the sky apart, lighting the colony in an unnatural dawn of fire. The alien ships descended like predators circling easy prey, their engines shrieking against the thin atmosphere. Verdun Reach had no defense grid, no fleet, only miners, farmers, and one overstretched medical bay. Elena barely had time to register the impact before the wounded began flooding through the shattered doors. Burns, shrapnel wounds, broken bones, every bed filled within minutes. She worked by instinct, sealing arteries with shaking hands, improvising bandages from torn uniforms. Her voice stayed calm even as the world collapsed around her. Outside, the militia tried to fight. Their rifles spat plasma that barely scorched alien armor. The raiders advanced methodically, their movements efficient and cruel. They weren't here to conquer. They were here to make a statement, to remind the frontier that no one was untouchable. Civilians screamed through the comms, begging for help that would never arrive. The orbital beacon was gone, jammed or destroyed. The colony was isolated, and every minute drew the enemy closer. When the outer gates fell, Elena ordered the younger medics to flee through the service tunnels. "Take whoever can walk," she told them. "Don't wait for me." None of them wanted to leave. She didn't shout, she simply kept working until they obeyed. Her hands were steady even when the ceiling trembled from the bombardment. The last patient she treated was a boy no older than 12, his face covered in soot. She wiped his tears with the back of her glove and said softly, "You'll see the stars again, sweetheart." He didn't know she was lying. The power failed. Emergency lights flickered to life, painting the room in blood-red shadows. The door alarms howled, proximity warnings. Elena armed the single-pulse pistol the militia had left her for self-defense. The weapon felt absurdly light, a toy against monsters. The door blew inward moments later. The air filled with dust and metallic shrieks. The aliens moved like blades given flesh, their limbs jointed wrong, their eyes glowing with cold intelligence. One grabbed her by the arm and slammed her against the wall, the force knocking the breath from her lungs. They spoke through a translator module, the voice distorted but clear. "Human female. Non-combatant. You resist extinction?" She didn't answer. The alien's mandibles clicked, amusement, perhaps curiosity. It studied her hands stained with the blood of both species. "You heal your weak. Wasteful." She met its gaze, refusing to look away. "We help because we can. That's what makes us strong." The alien tilted its head, as if parsing something illogical. Then it drove its blade through the floor beside her, deliberately missing. A warning. The others dragged her patients out, executing those who could not stand. Each gunshot echoed like a hammer in her skull. Elena pushed herself to her knees, fury overcoming fear. She lunged for the nearest weapon, firing once. The bolt struck the alien commander's shoulder, searing armor. The creature turned, expression unreadable. Without hesitation, it shot her through the chest. The impact threw her backward into the medbay cot she'd prepared for someone else. Pain exploded through her body, but she didn't scream. She forced one breath, then another, eyes locked on the ceiling as smoke filled her lungs. Her last sight was not the aliens or the fire but the small holophoto pinned above her workstation, Marcus smiling in a sunlit field back on Earth. The contrast was unbearable. She reached for it, fingers brushing the edge as her vision dimmed. Somewhere above, the alien commander observed her stillness and spoke again, almost reverently. "Strange. They die protecting others." Then it turned away, ordering the final purge. By the time the raiders departed, Verdun Reach was silent. The colony's beacon burned out, and the medical bay was a graveyard of melted glass and ash. Among the ruins, Elena Ward's insignia glowed faintly, a nurse's symbol scorched into metal. To the aliens, it was debris. To humanity, it would soon become a reason. A signal that one of their own had fallen, and someone, somewhere, would answer. The transmission reached the stealth carrier 3 days late, fragmented by radiation and static. Marcus Ward listened in silence as the voice of his wife flickered through the corrupted feed, half words, half static, then a burst of screaming and the unmistakable crack of gunfire. No one on the bridge moved. The recording ended with the alien phrase they'd heard too many times before: resist extinction. The screen went dark. He stood there for a long moment, unmoving, then walked out without a word. He didn't ask for permission. He didn't need to. Black Ops protocol gave wide latitude to its officers, and his reputation carried weight. The others in his squad understood before he spoke. They had all lost someone to the frontier wars, but Marcus's loss was different, immediate, intimate, personal. When he finally spoke, his voice was steady enough to make the air seem heavier. "We're going to find them," he said. "And we're going to erase them." The squad gathered in the war room, hollow maps spreading like veins of light across the table. Commander Rice, his second in command, traced the raiders' vector from Verdun Reach to a debris field near the Drawl border. "They hit 3 colonies in sequence," she said. "Verdun was just the easiest target. They're moving toward the outer rim. They think we won't follow that far." Marcus's expression didn't change. "They're wrong." The mission parameters shifted from reconnaissance to annihilation. The carrier Hecate was silent running, invisible to most sensors. The team loaded experimental weapons, EMP javelins, kinetic darts, drone disruptors, tools designed for precise devastation. Marcus worked methodically, stripping his armor down to essentials. His movements were mechanical, but his mind was exacting. He remembered Elena's voice, her calm, her warmth, and forced those memories into focus, not to mourn but to sharpen his resolve. Grief became calculation, love became discipline. The intelligence officer brought up the recovered fragments of the attack logs. The alien raiders were from the Site Dominion, a warband that prided itself on breaking soft species. Their leader, known as Commander Tsur, had orchestrated dozens of massacres across the outer sectors. Marcus studied the alien's recorded image, tall, plated in black armor, eyes devoid of emotion. "That's him," Marcus said quietly. "That's the one she faced." The words landed like a verdict. The operation brief was short. No speech, no morale talk. The squad already knew what they were: ghosts that hunted in silence. They would track the Site raiders through dead space, infiltrate their carrier, and destroy it from within. The goal wasn't victory reports or recognition. It was balance. For every colony burned, one enemy fleet would vanish without explanation. When the Hecate slipped into stealth mode, Marcus stood at the observation deck, watching the stars pass like frozen sparks. In the reflection, his face looked older, harder. The man who once believed in duty now believed in consequence. He thought of Elena's gentle defiance, the way she spoke to every being as if they were worth saving. That part of humanity, he realized, was why the universe feared them. Not their weapons, not their ships, their refusal to surrender compassion, even when it hurt. The Site had mistaken that mercy for weakness. They were about to learn the difference. At 0300 hours, the Navy officer reported contact, faint residual energy from alien drives matching the raider's signature. Marcus gave one order: lock trajectory. No transmissions. We finished this quietly. The squad moved like a single machine, each knowing the cost. Their mission would never appear in official logs. There would be no medals, no funerals, no proof they existed. That was the nature of Black Ops, invisible vengeance in the name of the living. As final preparations began, Rice approached him. "You sure you're ready?" she asked. "Revenge clouds judgment." Marcus didn't look at her. "It clears the fog. It reminds you why you fight." Then he turned away, sealing his helmet. Voice filtered through the comlink. "Elena healed the broken. I'll handle the ones who did the breaking." The engines roared to life in a low vibration that trembled through the hull. The Hecate vanished into the black, hunting ghosts among the stars. In the quiet before battle, Marcus closed his eyes. For the first time since the transmission, he allowed himself a single thought that was not tactical, a whisper meant for no one but her. "You're not gone. You're the reason they'll fall." They struck the Site hull where complacency lived, a transit lane patched with wrecks and neglect. Marcus's squad fell from the carrier in sealed pods, each one an anonymous shadow. No chatter, no signature, only the rhythm of train breath and the quiet click of gear folding into readiness. Insertion was choreography born of hard losses. Recon drones mimicked derelict signatures to pull patrols into false zones. EMP harpoons knife sensor arrays. Frequency scramblers hollowed the carrier's ears. Weapons were the offspring of scavenge tech, simple components recombined into precise instruments. Marcus watched every movement with the cool arithmetic of a man who had learned grief could be redirected into purpose. The Raider carrier's interior smelled of spent fuel and old cruelty. Corridors bore ruins and trophies. Bone flakes mingled with oil. CITH patrols were brutal and efficient, but they had never faced opponents willing to work the ship against itself. Marcus's team used maintenance conduits as cover, rerouted coolant to fog passages, and seeded med nanocartridges with compounds designed to paralyze alien musculature. Each innovation was an argument, adapt or die. They moved in small, silent intervals. Communication was tactile, knuckles tapping forearms, brief optical bursts set to the carrier's pulse. Noise would summon reinforcements. Stealth preserved the operation. When engagement occurred, it was surgical, a dart to a neck, a tendon severed, a neural pathway fried. Dead bodies lay arranged as if at rest. Dispatch was efficient, devoid of ecstasy. At the carrier's center the command spire loomed, a bitter crown of armor and arrogance. Security layers tested the mind, drones that read micropulses, doors that required blood heat signatures, veterans who had learned to expect humans to crumble. Marcus used the ship's own systems against it, initiating faults that forced defenders to chase phantoms while his teams slipped behind their lines. Commander Tsur expected a rout. He had taken trophies for years and wore scars like medals. Marcus stepped into the bridge with no fanfare, only a list of facts. He recited colony names, casualty counts, and the final log fragments recovered from Verdun Reach. There was no pleading, only a ledger of consequence. Tsur's mandibles flicked, curiosity crossed an alien face for the briefest instant. The end was swift. Marcus's blade, tempered and modified for purpose, completed its work in a single, certain motion. Tsur collapsed, his armor clattering like a fallen monument. Around them the team initiated the payload designed to cripple the carrier permanently, reverse the main confluence, seed the power matrix with failsafes that would consume the engines from within. They did not simply kill the ship, they made it incapable of repeating its crimes. As alarms began to scream, the squad withdrew the way they had arrived, small and orderly. They ejected in pods that would scatter through salvage fields and mimic cosmic detritus. There would be no formal proof, no parade. What remained was deliberate, a drifting remnant and a rumor that would ripple through CITH bands, precision vengeance from ghosts. Marcus checked the manifest of action and tallied the raiders neutralized and the colonies spared. The operation offered no solace, only balance. He folded grief into discipline and filed it under purpose. They slipped back toward the Hecate, ship light swallowing them into shadow. The strike would not appear in official logs. In the dark between broadcasts, human resolve had done what compassion alone could not, it removed a threat. Marcus felt no triumph, only the steady satisfaction of work finished. By the time the wreck settled into a slow orbit, wordless signals from traders carried fragments of the tale. A carrier gone dark, the captain's trophy missing, raider clans whispering of ghosts that measured grief and returned balance. Marcus kept the silence. He carried the names in a ledger. That ledger would alter a few futures. It would not bring her back now.